Hello and welcome back, everyone. I hope you have a good dinner break and a short rest before we continue with the final two sessions after the event. Also, thank you for staying with us until now, having worked from home for extended amounts of time. We know Zoom fatigue is real, and in case you just miss any sessions, please do not worry because they are recorded for you to watch later. So I'm sure that working remotely has become very popular in many countries around the world, and many of us are wondering how design roles will adapt to the new normal. Our next session's titled 13 Remote Management That Will Make You a Better UX Manager will be hosted by Natan Santolo, the current head of design at AirAsia. Now, based in Southeast Asia, Nathan's also have over a decade of experience in designing products in Americas, Europe. So please join me in welcoming Natan Santolo. Hi, Natan.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, that sounds
Amazing.
good. Now,
Amazing. Are we ready to start? I hope everyone is doing okay. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me and having me. My name is Natan. I'm a designer by profession. I come from Argentina, and someday I end up here in Southeast Asia, right? I came for work to work for Lazada a few years back, and now I work for AirAsia. And I'm also involved in a lot of educational startups as an advisor, and I also mentor designers here in Southeast Asia and around the world to different organizations. So if you're interested in getting mentorship, you can reach out later on. So today talk is about 13 remote management lessons that will make you a better UX manager. But there's a funny story about this title, how it came to be. So I was bouncing some ideas about what could be interesting for the community to talk about, and I came up in a burst of creativity. I came up with all these all these titles, and I asked my team what they thought about it, as to have a good reference. And this is sort of the votes that each title got. And then the writer on our team helped me, put some flair to the title. But actually, I was most interested in creating the last title. That it was Awesome Design Talk number 8, Why Did I Confuse 2020 with 2021 all the time? Because I think it's a really interesting topic and is true, right? But ultimately, what I want to talk today is about becoming a better UX manager, becoming a better manager. And I want to share some stories and some learnings that I got during, especially during these times that we have to go fully remote. And apart from going fully remote, we struggle with a lot of things, right? So the agenda for today is I'm going to talk about really briefly about being a manager, really briefly about being strategic. And then I want to share some key learnings. And then I want to do a bit of a reality check. During this conference, there was a lot of really interesting content that will bring us awareness about how the industry is actually thriving in Southeast Asia, but there's still a lot of challenges, right? So being a manager is hard. Or being a leader or manager, depending. I think the role, how you name the role, is not really important. But if this is your career path, I think the first thing you need to make sure of is understand what kind of manager do you want to be, and have that idea really clear. What kind of manager you want to be. And if you go to theory and Google, you can Google this. There's different types of management styles, right? But you don't need to narrow your experience to only one. I see myself as a visionary and a servant leader. Both of them sort of apply to my management style, and I think these are the styles that represent myself as a manager better. But for a healthy, successful team, you'll have to understand that which is the management style that fits each different people in your team, and changing hats constantly. It's not like you're gonna decide what kind of type of style of management you wanna pull through, and then at the end of the day, people don't fit with that style, and it's basically your responsibility to make the team perform and so on, right? So it's important that you know this. This is about you being flexible and dynamic and understanding your team and understanding which style will fit better for each situation, right? But I guess the question I ask myself all the time is, what does separate a good manager from a bad manager, right? And this is really important. And this is also not just important, is a subjective perspective on your actions on the day-to-day. So somebody told me once that bad managers are actually a good thing because they teach you all the things that you need to avoid doing, right? And I guess that's sort of looking at the glass half full, right? But either way, I think this is important to reflect on. What are the things that separate good managers from bad managers, and ask yourself this question every day, right? For me, I care about a lot of things when I'm managing my team. I care about them a lot, and I care about doing the right thing. Sometimes I fail, and I'm sorry, guys. That's reality. But I try to do my best, and I try to go around these tasks with specific principles in mind, right? What I care about more about this is keep my team healthy, mentally, physically, spiritually. I want them to be happy. I want them to be healthy, because ultimately, what I believe they're doing is they're doing the work that I'm not doing, right? And I feel that they need to have the space and the voice and the tools that they need to actually pull it through. I care about work quality and delivery a lot, because it's part of our daily things that we need to deliver, and we need to look at the quality and make the quality even better every day. I care a lot about continuous learning, and I care about having a valuable impact, but not just having a valuable impact on our work, on the people we work with, on the customers we serve, on our stakeholders, on the company, on the environment, etc. Right? I think all these things are super, super important for me. So I guess you'll have to find out, what are those things that make you a good manager, reflect on that, and define these principles and try to stick to them. And obviously, if something doesn't work, change it, right? I think being a good manager has to do with, this word strategic, being strategic. I think strategy is a really deep word, and I want to tell you a story about it, right? This happened on my first all-hands strategy team meeting, right? I went in super confident, and I had all my homework done. I made a beautiful deck. I sat down with the entire team, and I started talking about strategy, design strategy, research strategy, business strategy, whatever strategy. And it seems like I used that word pretty much, even it was in the title of my deck. And, after the meeting, what happens was one of our researchers that is really insightful actually asked me a question. She asked me, Natan, can I ask you a question? What do you mean by strategy? And then I realized, maybe I should, step back a little bit and try to explain in layman terms what I was trying to accomplish. And this gave me this was a huge learning for me to as a manager, to have a really good understanding on who's your audience when you send these kind of messages, right? That they're important for the team performance or important for achieving goals, right? So I started reflecting on how did I learn what is strategy about? And I want to tell you about that a little bit, right? When I came when I started, growing in my career as a designer, I heard this strategy thing quite a lot, right? And I thought I knew what it was, right? When I traveled to New York and I was doing work, I heard these guys introducing themselves like a head of strategy, whatever, right? And I thought it was really interesting. And for my understanding of what strategy was, or how I was doing strategy, was setting goals and motivate other people to achieve those goals, create thinking models, making nice looking diagrams on the whiteboards, and point my finger in random directions, try to make it happen, basically, right? But I was deadly wrong. Then at one point, I ran into Julie So's articles, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Julie. I'm really sorry. Create alignment. She proposed that strategy, or her take on design strategy, or UX strategy, is about creating alignment around what wild success look like. That means like understanding what success look like, and then understand which is the problem that you're looking to solve for which group of people. And then prioritize and cut. And this is her recipe for strategy. And it actually opened a door for me to understand these things on a completely different levels, right? She actually recommended Richard's book, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, that is an incredible source of knowledge for me that back then. And I understood a lot of things, especially this message that he sends. Richard says that a good strategy is not always successful, but even an inappropriate strategy might be an actual strategy. And a bad strategy is one that doesn't even try to address important challenge. And this was eye-opening for me as well. So these are two books. Julie wrote this book about the making of a manager that I didn't have a chance to read, but I read his articles, and I encourage you to explore. I think if you read her articles are good enough, at least for me it was. And she recommends a lot of things that I went on and I did deeper research and actually with a lot of really positive results in my career development. And Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, I actually got the audiobook, and it was really interesting to hear Richard talk about all these things. That it made me reflect on how I was approaching my work as a manager, right? So if you like to read, I highly recommend that you read. If you're not reading, read. And then if you want to read something cool, go for these ones, right? And okay, here's my recipe. This is what I boiled down, how I do it, how I present it to my team, and how it works for me. So are you ready? Take notes or selfies or whatever you do, kids, this day. I cannot follow everything. But this is the strategy for being strategic, or, this is the way I like to do it. Basically, step one is understand exactly how Julie proposes. What is success, right? What does it mean for whatever we're trying to do? What does success look like, right? Make sure that we understand that really, really well. Once that's done, we need to diagnose what are the biggest problems, from the big bulk of things. Once we identify those problems, we can sit down and make an action plan. An action plan means tasks and initiatives and actions that we're going to take in order to fix these problems. And then we need to make sure that this makes sense in a timeline, in a budget, for the resources I have, for the tools that I have available, right? All these things are important. So this is the way I like to approach everything I do when it comes to whatever my team sees strategy in the name. This is how I came up with, and this is sort of what I tried to explain to my team once. So when I realized that Esther inquired about this, and I realized this is a really good tool for anyone in the world to have access to and understand exactly how to use it. Right? You can make this framework better looking, more complicated, more elaborated, or even a simplified one version of this will work. But make sure that you go through at least going through the steps, right? So I hope being a manager, introduction, and being strategic is clear enough. So what I want to do next is share some things that are more specific. I have a few stories I want to share with you, things that I had to realize, not just the last year, but I came to materialize these learnings lately in a more elaborate way, and I want to tell you some stories about it, so maybe you can relate to it. And if you have any questions later on how to solve your own problems, maybe we can talk about that as well. Okay. Oh, sorry. This is a reminder. I need to talk. I need to drink some water. Wait a second. I always do that. I forget to drink water, and then my throat gets hurt. Okay, one more. Thank you for reminding me, Natan. Oh, so this is how I look during COVID-19 lockdown, by the way. Not a really good look. Anyway, let's move on. So the first learning I want to share with you is something that a lot of people actually have a different version of this, but I think it's really important. Being a manager or not, being a leader or not, give, and don't expect anything in return. And this is really important. When you give, you don't expect anything in return, good things will happen. Okay? So the way I do it is, I believe that heroes sacrifice themselves into a greater good. And a philosopher once said, for me, Batman was a big philosopher. I'm a comic fan. So you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, right? So try to have this in mind, not Batman, but give, and give. Don't expect anything in return, right? I spent countless time. This is Javier, by the way, one of our designers. You can see how good looking it is. Just put the pictures just to illustrate a situation. Multiple times when I was coaching Javier, we spent a lot of time basically going around pixels and pixels and pixels and making versions and versions and versions. So he will build up the confidence to continue working on whatever he has to deliver, right? And we spent countless nights working on things that were fun or there were, responsibilities that we had. But this is important. I feel he grew a lot and he was able to take a lot from this experience. And it was really valuable for both of us, right? Hey, honey, my wife just came in. So visualize everything. This is another thing that I learned. When you talk about information with your teammates and you're face-to-face and you had the chance to go to a whiteboard and, ideate and come up with, dumping your brain into places, it's really difficult to fill that gap when you're working remotely. So something that really helps me understand the work that we're doing is by doing visualizations of it, right? And it doesn't matter what it is. This is a customer journey mapping. It's an experience. When I'm trying to describe the experience, if it's a strategy, how things overlap and how things are related. Is it an app? Is it physical space? Is it something else that you're working on? Okay, just try to find a way to visualize it. When you visualize it, it's going to be really way easier to explain to people. People will be able to collaborate and add value to it. And also looks awesome. It makes you look awesome. It's a great add-on for your portfolio, right? Another tips I want to share with you, and this is the learning that I got, especially working remotely, was really important for us, is about habits and social behavior. I put the words habits and social behavior, but what I mean is actually team culture. Something I learned a long time ago is you cannot define the culture in your team. You're not the one who defines it. The thing that defines culture in your team are the habits, social behaviors, and other elements that they're wrapping around how we interact every day and how we behave, right? So what I've been experimenting with the team, this is pre-COVID, by the way, so don't worry about social distance and stuff. COVID wasn't there yet. And we were sitting with the team every now and then to talk about our culture. And we were running these workshops where we would talk about specific things about our culture using this canvas. You can Google it. If you want to use it, if you want to explore this, I highly recommend it. Just go and Google culture canvas and you'll see a lot of versions of this. But basically here the team is defining their own purpose, their own values, how they're going to, execute certain things, how they're going to behave. And this is really important for them to take ownership of what they believe is right. And then, of course, we're going to create an action plan based on this input, but it's going to be, with my flavor because I have opinions. I'm the manager, right? So when you do these kind of things, I also try to ask them, what was the question? Let me reflect on this because I don't exactly remember. Well, it doesn't matter the exact question, but what I did one day was, okay, guys, we need to hire people. What will you say are these characteristics that these people we want to hire should have? And this question is is also in self-reflection, right? Like you're thinking about what kind of people you want to interact with. And this is a list I carry with myself. I have a note in the phone, and every now and then I just look at it because it's really important to understand what are the characteristics that your team value in people. And I try to remind them about this every now and then, right? But it's really good input about, what are the values that you want to promote? What are the things that you want to reward, right? Another thing that I need to I need to do way more, and I need to get better at this, is get interested and invest in my team. I feel this is an opportunity for me, definitely, but this is yields a lot of really positive results at the end of the day, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, right? And it has to do with spending time with them and, understanding what they want, what they need, what are their challenges, and talk with them and interact and connect. And you can see Guru is laughing about it because we're having a lot of really, really nice time. Thank you, Guru, for sharing. But it's not just about sharing time, FaceTime, right? It's also about collecting data. And here I'm gonna tell you what I do, right? I ask them a lot of questions. Every now and then we run surveys. We talk with each one of them during the one-on-ones, and we try to map what are the things that we want to do. What are the current states of affairs? What are the problems that we have, the challenges? What is the skill set of the team? What are the things, the areas of opportunities that we have to develop, to focus on, right? And then we take action on these things. We either invite somebody to our team to talk, or we do a cross-company sharing where we talk about design systems, for example, or we bring somebody one Friday and we just, interview them or just talk about experiences that we had as designers. And that also helped me to understand what are the areas that my team wants to develop on, right? What are the career paths that we can open up for them? What are the opportunities that we can create, right? And then with all this data, apart from make it, look nicer, we do things, right? For example, end of 2019, we did Red UX. It was an internal event that we invited all the creative people, all the designers, all the marketing people, and so everyone who was interested in user experience. And we ran a series of talks and activities, and we ordered pizza. It wasn't enough for all the people. That was kind of a bummer. But the content was really nice, and everyone was really happy about it, right? Not just me, everyone, right? Another thing that is really important that I got to know that in order to achieve all these things that you want to achieve, you need to create spaces for open conversations. There's no other way, right? You cannot decide on everything. You won't. This is about empathizing with this is about user-centered design or human-centered design applied into your team, right? You need to understand what they're going through, what are their problems, etc. So creative spaces for open conversations will give you a lot of insights of what's going on. And you can practice this with the scope of people that you believe is important. I did it for individuals, and I do it as well for groups. I help one of our colleagues to understand how he could become a better collaborator. And I do it for the entire team with different tools to see how we can improve our interactions, right? But the way we do it is by a lot of initiatives. I'm going to list a few here, right? We have a Slack a channel that is called Suggestion Box that anyone can come in and say things if they want. We also sometimes do surveys that they're anonymous, just in case people don't want to put their face on bad feedback. Every Monday we try to all the team get together online and plan and report what happened last week, what we're gonna do next. And then on Fridays we try to have one session where we learn and we play. I'm really sorry, guys, that if you're hearing I missed last Friday. I'm sorry about that. We try to do weekly check-ins with different sub-teams, so to follow the roadmap, see if there's any blockers that we need to resolve, etc. We have a few one-on-ones that are important. Some of them are really frequent, some others are not. And then we try to do 360 feedback. And 360 feedback, we do it internally. We do it with purpose of understanding how we can become a better team. And we started doing it. 360 feedback is really challenging, by the way. It's a complicated framework. And we tried to do it this year. We're practicing to see how we feel about it. And now we need to compile the data, but I want to talk about more in a second. And then we have an internal blog. An internal blog is about stories, how we share stories about success, how we share stories about information we want to share with our team. Sadly, or the guy in our team, the UX writer that we have in our team, Chris, is actually the one who writes the most. I guess it's his comfort zone for some reason, and he shares really good quality content, and he's really funny. So I'm really grateful for that. But it's an opportunity that we have to tell stories about success, about failure, sharing experiences and work that otherwise we cannot talk about so many details. So if you write it down a case study or something you want to talk about, it can open a conversation. So I want to talk through a little bit of 360 peer evaluations, right? We started doing this. We're going to see the impact actually in January when we finish doing all the process. But I want to tell you how this impacted me, right? And I didn't have a chance to look at all of them, but I was, skimming through some of them. And, I learned a lot about, what people are seeing as me, like what are the opportunities that I have. You don't need to read everything, but basically what it says is I talk too much. And I do it in a way that extends meeting past their scheduled times consistently. Because, sometimes I won't justify, I do it. I'm sorry, I'll be better at it. That this is important. This is important, and I get better at it. This is how you get feedback, by the way. You accept it. Okay, cool. There's another comment as well that when we're doing meetings with other teams, I come out a little bit too aggressive, especially when, it seems like I step up for the user sometimes or for our teammate or something. But it seems the language I use, it seems too aggressive for a wider audience. So this is also something I need to improve upon. And there's more of it, but only these two examples already give you really specific things that I can do to become a better manager already, or a better collaborator, or a better teammate, right? Obviously, when I read this and the other comments, it affected me emotionally. And the beginning, I didn't want to believe that this is, or I didn't want to believe. It wasn't disbelief what I was feeling, but I didn't want to accept. But at the end of the day, we need to understand that when these things happen, we go through this process that is emotionally charged with a lot of things. But then at the end of the day, you need to use it as an action that it will help you to become a better person. And by becoming a better person, you can interact with your team more successfully. And that means that you can unblock things and create really positive emotions along your interactions with them. So even if it hurts, it's really important to talk openly about feedback, right? And I think this is the last tip I have. I hope. I'm not sure. We'll see. The only constant is change. I find myself sometimes fixing the language that I use sometimes to say certain things. When you talk about design, for example, we talk about final designs or, something like that, or final whatever. And every time I hear it, it doesn't resonate, because the only constant that we have as designers is change. Not because we want to, it's because people evolve. Humans, products are always pushing the boundaries. Every time there's a new thing in e-commerce, people will expect that to exist everyone else. That's why we have stories in every platform today, right? Sorry, this is an internal joke. But anyway, here you have, for example, Illustrator is one of my favorite designer software, maybe because of my background as a graphic designer. And you can see here the evolution of the toolbar is going to keep changing forever. Maybe the functionality will be the same or similar, but the design will always be evolving, right? I have short stories. When COVID came in and we had to work from home, we wrote this guide and we set up a lot of principles and rules on how we want to start interacting remotely, and about safety and about interactions and about using the scheduling system and so on, right? But we decided on do something that was a daily report. And the daily report was basically an email that we're sending, all the things that we're going to do every day. And we did it for a long time, actually. But our team was dreading to do this. And at one point, it got, out of hand. And the daily report wasn't useful enough. So we changed it. And we started doing one meeting every Monday, all the team together. So when we report to each other, we can talk about it. This format might be, we'll need to create, maybe a better format or a different way. But we found that meeting once a week was more useful for us, so we can talk about these changes and these plans and these updates that we were talking about, right? We also changed a lot of things. Like, this is pre-COVID, the way we were running workshops. We were just post-it note in the wall. We were just rendering the entire journey. We were talking about it. We were doing activities and so on, and then taking selfies otherwise, because if you didn't take a selfie, it didn't happen, right? But now we have to do it online. And obviously, we had to change the way we approach this, and we had to document probably a little bit more. And we had to onboard people into using different tools and explain how the interaction should work. But you know what? After a period of adaptation, this works really well, really well. So if you're wondering, how do we make all these decisions? How do we come up with, these solutions or these initiatives? Well, I'll tell you right now that you should be strategic, man. So understand what does success look like, reporting or, whatever is the problem that you think you have. Understand the problem really well and make an action plan that makes sense. Tools available, resources, money, etc. And then at the end of the day, we're designers, right? So we can focus on, who is the human in the middle of the interaction. At the end of the day, we do information systems, and information systems has to do with this, right? It has to do with how we interact with information, how we interact with the interfaces, how we interact with each other, right? Really quick, a reality check, and then we can wrap it up. So it's important to understand where we at to be able to implement all these action plans and strategies, right? Design maturity model is something that InVision came up with some time ago, but it's still relevant. And they catalog levels of maturity for different kind of companies. I think there's different models that you can use. I just use this as a reference. But if you want to see where you are, it's going to help you to understand what you need to do to achieve the next step, right? And on the right side of the screen, you can see what is the impact of it, right? And I'm not saying you go grab this slide and show it to your manager and say, design is the best, design is the solution. What I'm saying is you can use this tool, this model, for you to understand where you're at and what are the things that you need to plan to do in order to achieve reaching the next level, right? This is another reference I want to tell you about. So this is about the relationship, the ratio of designers to programmers or developers from 2017, right? And here you can see a couple of companies, how they've been transforming themselves quite a lot, right? And you see the ratio is changing, is ever changing. Right? Atlassian, for example, went from 1 to 25 developers to 1 designer, 9 developers. This is a huge change. But the biggest change probably was IBM. IBM went from 1 to 72 developers to 1 designer, 8 developers. And then you can see the rest and make your own calculations. But this is a little bit of reference on how things are changing, and probably change will reach us soon. So don't worry about it. We just need to be really, realistic about where we are now and what are the things that we can do to maybe accelerate this process a little bit more, right? And I think that's why we're here. That's why we're doing conferences and sharing all this content. And this is really good. So I want to take this opportunity to, thank everyone in the organization team and all the things that guys, what you're doing is incredible. Thank you for fill, all this gap that we have. We should do it everywhere, every day, all the time. This is really fun. So thank you all the organization, but especially you make me feel really comfortable, and that's really important as well. And I also want to tell, send a message to my team. Look how beautiful they are. I love them. I love them a lot. To make my day every day. Thank you very much. And that's pretty much it for me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for the sharing. I believe that many of us could relate to this remote managing experience. Personally, I really like the part that you mentioned about creating an open space for feedback and collaborating.
Yeah.
I think that really is helpful. So let's move on with our Q&A sessions. So one of the this is a very good questions.
Okay.
Quite long, so I had many traumatic experiences with senior designers. They was always want to work alone and decide/approve everything by themselves without reviewing from others, then with bad result. Only me were a person who had responsibility for it. So finally, I let them go. What should I do when I want to hire a senior designer again and keep them stay?
I think you need to be upfront about how you want to do things and what do you expect. I think this is really important if you're thinking about hiring specific people, right? Be upfront about the design process that you're running and how you want to run it. Be upfront about your expectations and be upfront about the type of profile of designer that you're looking at, right? And this is a good story as well. We are in the midst of updating our hiring process as well. And I identify with this problem, and we have a lot of challenges as well in the hiring process. So we're using design thinking to change the entire thing. The team is coming up. Thank you, Nicolas, by the way. And the team is coming up with really good ideas on how to introduce the designer into our way of doing things first, so the designer or the talent can come in and experience how we do things in a way that it will finish the process saying, okay, I understand exactly how they go about this. I understand exactly what do we expect, and I understand exactly what is the value I can add to this organization. So I think being upfront about what you expect is really important, and I iterate the process, right? Learn from every interview that you have. You ask for feedback, and then you make it better. I'm sorry about being traumatized that way. That was really harsh.
Yeah, I could relate to that as well. So how do you implement the Friday to learn and play when everyone is working remotely? Could you share an example on that?
Yes. So we started doing it. So the first thing, I came up with a game that it was kind of challenging, actually. Then I realized it was too challenging. and then we tone it down a little bit. We make it more. We try to make it more fun. But what we do is on the senior management in design, we meet every day for a short period of time where we talk about what are the things the day to day we need to attack. If there's any priorities that we need to change, if there's something that we need to hand off or whatever. And during that meeting, we collaboratively, we decide what's going to happen on Friday. So by all the leaders of design joining in one particular spot, we can say, oh, you know what? Guru is working on this, so maybe we can tell him to present on Friday, right? And then there's always a sharing session, or we try to share something that is work-related or an experience with the team. And then the second part is a game. And the game, I started the first one, and then the winner get to choose what is the next game, and the winner get to choose what is the next game, and so on and so on and so on. So this is the way we structure the meeting, but you cannot keep it loose and open. You need to structure in a way that is going to happen the way you want, and you're going to show the information you want. And you have to point some fingers at one point, right? You have to say, you know what? You need to show this on Friday. Prepare something. Prepare 3 slides, right? And you need to give them a scope of what is the conversation that you want to have. This is a good topic, actually. We can chat about it later and see how other people do it. I'm actually also interested.
It sounds like a fun team to working with. So some positive questions. Can you share some of the healthy behaviors and habits of good design teams?
Some of the healthy behaviors and
good habits.
Good habits.
Of good design teams.
Yeah. So something good habit. Design reviews is a good habit for design teams to constantly show the work that you're doing, getting early feedback. Collaborative user testing. So don't send the work to a researcher or tester directly, just be involved. Another really healthy habit is include the collaborators from other teams into your work early on, right? Because you need to be really clear with this. The stakeholders of your work are not just the user. It's everyone else. Like everyone is a stakeholder. Everyone who works with you is a stakeholder of your work, right? If you do design that cannot be implemented, it's not feasible to implement, then your stakeholder, the engineer, you're giving a really bad time. And he probably will sacrifice the implementation because of that. So I'm going to detail, but you need to be aware that a good practice for a designer is involve everyone earlier and tell them exactly what you're doing, what you're thinking, why are we thinking this, what are the problems that you're trying to solve, especially your business stakeholders. If you partner with your business stakeholders, that's probably is going to be successful, understanding what he's trying to accomplish, understanding how he sees a success happening. Then you can, service to that. This is a really healthy practice. And among the team, communicate every day. Even some days, my researchers complain about people not reading the reports or whatever. And I understand that people sometimes it's not, probably we can do something better to improve the way we communicate the report. But either way, just give, and don't expect anything in return. I think that's a good tip.
Oh, that's amazing. It actually can learn a lot from that. Thank you. And that's it for today's sessions. Thank you, Nathan. I hope we could have a chat later on. Thank you.